Good.
Okay, so today we kind of changed our format. We are like more video form, so we're so excited. So today we talk about marriage and partnership after awakening. So we can talk about this topic. Like, you know, a lot of people I know, and after awakening, they started having energetic difference between their spouses. They started realizing other things, like they more and more they become true to themselves. They find, not that because they had bad relationship with their partner, but they feel like they're graduated. They kind of like grew over the relationship. And then I noticed a lot of people started to leaving the relationship in one way, still having family, but start seeking the partner who is more of suited into their soul need or resonate with their soul more. So today we want to talk about stuff like that. I mean, I think, Sue, you might have experienced something like that from your first marriage and then second marriage, no?
Well, yeah, I mean, individual soul growth dictates that when you're a young person in life, that there are naturally many lessons that we're going to encounter. And I feel that I had not been awakened at the time when I was first married. That didn't come until, well, and then as a consequence, I got into therapy to deal with my relationships and the difficulties that I was having. We weren't growing along the same lines. And
how was the marriage? Like you were just married, or you weren't growing together? What do you mean? Like, can you specify?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he was working all the time and even not necessarily wanting to spend spare time with us. So, you know, the job and the money were the excuse not to be home and not to have a real conversation. And when I started my therapy, because I felt very alone and then the other thing was, you know, he would say, well, when are you ready for another child? I was just wrapping my mind around the first child I was trying to raise and woefully unprepared. So, you know, there were things that were happening on his end to avoid getting real and talking about whatever issues that we had. And I think that's a learned behavior when people do that.
So you think he was hiding his, I don't know, true feelings or whatever it is, like by just working?
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to talk about something important?
Yeah, and he worked also at a bar, so he was seeing many, many women on the side and, you know, staying out later and later at night. And it would scare me because I wouldn't get a phone call saying, hey, I'm going to work later. So here I would be expecting him to be home at 2 a.m. after the bar closed, or 3 a.m. and then it was becoming 4, 5, and 6, which scared me. It was depleting me of my sleep. And I was becoming almost delirious, you know, with worry and with those topics. So, you know, the bottom line is he wasn't ready to be married. I wasn't ready to be married. We got married because of the child. And wow, I can't stress enough how much that's not a good reason to partner up with somebody. You know, different people will disagree with me, you know, people that are more religiously affiliated. And all I can say is, in my experience and many of the people that I've worked with in my career, it is just not the thing that makes a relationship work. But you know, now we're physically married.
In order to understand that concept, people need spiritual maturity to even grasp that.
Right.
You know, at least they could have to start awakening.
Well, if I had listened to my own self, my higher self speaking through me, I wouldn't have gotten married in the first place. I allowed myself to be bullied into a marriage, and that was a familial thing. That was a religious thing. And I didn't want to disappoint my parents. I wanted the child.
You wanted to do the right thing?
No, I wouldn't say that. I don't believe in right and wrong. I just think it was a pressure that was put on me by my family. I wanted to please. I wanted to be a pleaser. I wanted my family to approve of me. And so when we do something that isn't um, in line with what our highest self is asking us, we suffer a consequence, you know. And I thought that it could work out over time
Mm-hmm.
if we just put enough effort into it. But then once you discover that you're willing to put effort into it and the other isn't, then I think that's all you need to know. So I got
Well,
out of it pretty
yeah,
quickly.
effort is definitely important, but like I don't know, when we feel like, especially after awakening, we have this an innate feeling, like an intuitive feeling about stuff is no longer serving, you know,
Hmm.
like it's just not the right fit anymore.
The energetic is off. And so if every time you walked into a closet, someone hit you over the head with a baseball bat, would you still keep going into the closet? Now, I know that's an extreme example. However, this feeling that you're talking about that is not um, feeling right anymore, feeling good anymore, that's your higher self coming in to say, this, you're not getting what you need. You're not getting your needs met. And so, there are many options available if people, both parties are willing to work, they feel it, they can be honest about it and say, yeah, it's not quite working for me either. I'm not even sure why, let's figure it out. If both partners are willing to do something about it and work together to figure it out. And even in the end, if that comes to a mutual agreement that, well, okay, so our time together has passed. I mean, we've gotten some really good things out of it, and now it's a natural time to part ways. That's great. But if one individual is willing to have a conversation and the other isn't, then I don't know where you go from there. What do you think about that?
I don't know, because it's about how much the other person is willing, or it depends on the situation. Like if the other person is trying but doesn't know how to,
Hmm.
which is completely different situation from not caring. You know,
Or
you're
not being
just
willing to try, right? Yeah.
you're just
So,
in the game for the sake of, because you have to be together because of your religion, whatever, right?
hmm.
Like I have a lot of clients I do help because they are not necessary in happy marriage. They are not necessary having any kind of resonating relationship as a soul.
Hmm.
They are together for the sake of it, or
Mm,
for money, or for kids.
yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
meet
And
twin flame and they don't know what to do about it. So
mm,
what I provide is provide a soul contract, so they can understand what the contract is with their spouse, and then their twin flame relationship. So at least they are understanding, okay, I married to this person because, let's say, this is a karmic relationship, so I'm supposed to learn this and this and that. So after you have learned the lesson, you are not really required to stay with this person.
mhm.
So if they have a clarity, like this is not some kind of a lifetime contract with their spouse, but you happen to hooked up with this person because they are past like karmic tie or whatever that is. So each person's relationship or their marriage is different, because some marriage are contract between two soul families, that soulmates.
Mm,
So they have their own goals and mission together,
mhm.
and then they have a common goals. So that kind of marriage is usually very harmonious, very supportive. Of course, they have some challenges, because we all grow up in different environments, but
Mhm.
not like, wow, you have to climb Mount Everest.
Mm.
Usually it's harmonious.
Mm.
And then they both grow with each other. One person grow, the other person catch up, because they are, I won't say they're contracted that way, but it seems like how this is working. you know.
Robert Schwartz, I've read some work of Robert Schwartz. He's done, I don't know, 30 years worth of research on soul contracts. And I love his work. The one I have is my favorite is called A Soul's Gift. And he
Mhm.
talks about a client that he worked with where the soul contract with this individual that would have been her husband, she had learned the lesson that she needed to learn, which was to stand up for herself and to value her own
Oh
voice
yeah.
earlier in the life. And what ended up happening was they didn't even end up meeting
Yeah, because
and
she learned
coming
the lesson,
together
right?
because she completed her lesson. And the interesting thing about that is Robert talks about in the book that there's so many timelines available in any one given combination or situation. So, in essence, if you do learn your lesson or whatever it is experience that you came to do for yourself, and then that relationship is no longer, there are so many other possibilities of how that could go for
Yeah.
both individuals, that it's really not a problem, because he will in that instance get the experience that he needed. It'll just be with a different person.
Yeah, it's because it's a freeing experience for them. You know, my clients know their soul contract, so they are no longer tied because I had to stay this person because I'm married. Now they're looking
Exactly.
at their soul contract, and in order for them to look at it, what kind of contract they are having. In this karmic contract, so you have to finish certain lessons, or in this soulmate contract, you decided to contract with each other with this lifetime to do
Mhm.
something together, or in this
Exactly.
frame contract that you decided to grow each other's soul and then meet your union within your divine feminine and divine masculine, and then serve for humanity and see if the other person will be in union or not. You know, some twin flame couples, they become in union, but that is not the basic goal of twin flame union, because you have to be in union within yourself, and you have to start self-loving yourself even before having self-union, and
Hmm.
then have their physical union.
Yeah, I would
So
agree. Yeah.
depends on the relationship and depends on the contract. You can really look at any relationship or any marriage in one black and white picture.
Hmm.
So it's very fulfilling for me to take a look at soul contract for my coaching client, because they need clarity of that,
Hmm.
you know.
Well, you were asking about my first marriage, and I'll tell you this for myself. The honest part came in is that I wasn't looking to be married or even, be a mother at that point in my life. I was looking to get out of my family of origin, out of the household. I mean, my mother and I like fought like cat and dog, and it was very uncomfortable. So, I mean, I climbed onto this person and
Mhm.
clasped onto this person looking
Yeah.
for escape. And it was very important for me in my own journey to understand. I
Mhm.
didn't know it then. Of course, it was an unconscious coupling.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I didn't know what my reasons were back then, but I had a whole lot of excuses for myself, why I wanted him in my life. And the truth is, we're good friends to this day. We
Mhm.
don't talk to each other, we don't see each other, but I love him
Mhm.
because I just do. But we're not we're not good together, okay? And so we figured that much out. But reevaluating your motivations for any interaction is always a good thing. And like you said, if you can nail something down to, is this a karmic thing? I'm sure my first husband and I agreed on a karmic level that we would have this experience together so we could grow and understand
Yeah.
to
And have
to know
somebody.
ourselves better. We weren't ready to be married. I mean, geez, I was 19 years old and he wasn't either.
Yeah.
He wanted to, go out and play and make a living, and then here he is married. So
Yeah.
um I think what's important too is no blame. You
Yeah.
know, if you're going to try to figure out a relationship and you're just sitting there going, say I'm the female, which I am. Oh, it's his fault. He did this, and he wanted to go out and party and he just wanted to work all the time and he didn't want to have a real conversation, and I just take all of that and blame it on him, like I'm putting my garbage on him and the whole responsibility of the relationship, then that's not helpful for me, and I'm not going to find happiness this way. I had to go through and intuit for myself what were my motivations
Yeah.
for the marriage, and what were, what was at stake by going on and having this child on my own. And so there was my insecurity that I wouldn't be able to do it by myself. See, these are self-reflections that actually help build me. And that is, in my opinion, self-love. When I can be honest with myself and say, what was my motivation for this? So did I get married for money? Did I get married for comfort and support? Yes, yes. Did I get married because my family thought that that was the right thing to do and that I would be being unfair to my child if I brought him into the world not being married? Yes. Okay. So it's not so simple to look at a love relationship and just say, okay, we agreed to be together. We have a contract. Okay. So in life and what our experience is, what were my motivations in my mind? What was I consciously aware of? What was I subconsciously not aware of for motivation, right? And so once you can start piecing those things together, that's actually being kind to myself, because then I can be honest with myself, and then I can be honest with my partner. If
Yeah.
I'm not telling the truth about me, what's going to give him the impetus to tell the truth about him?
Yeah, but it's very hard for especially people who are not awakened to face that. How much can you be honest with you? Because you
Yeah.
have to look at something you don't want to look at. You have to look at something that you don't even want to admit, let's say, motive of your marriage.
Yeah, well,
Like,
that's why they call it work, right?
uh-huh.
That's
So
why they call it work, because
that's
it is
why
work and it's
because
painful.
yeah, that's why self-work is important in order for people to start ascending. Um,
Absolutely.
but sometimes my understanding of marriage is a lot of marriage is karmic contract, unless marriage is based on soulmate. You don't really meet too many twin flames, because most of the marriage is either soulmate or karmic. I'm just putting generalizing. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people saying I have a twin flame, but I never tell them, oh, you are. Let's look at your soul contract, because maybe the person is thinking this crazy passion they have with this person, they think it's their twin flame, or something they cannot stop thinking about this person. It could be attachment from their previous lifetime. It could be
Yeah,
karmic relationship. You don't know that, right? But
absolutely.
a lot of marriage, especially marriage that people graduate, because
Yeah.
they come to certain point that they need another person, because they grow out of whatever they had. That's, to me, the contract is ended. But when you reach ending, how you are going to reach your ending? Like, are you yelling at each other and having a drama to finish it, or you are you learn what you had, you accepted, you feel accountable of whatever the part you played, and be thankful and move on to another person. That's like
Yeah.
two different way of graduating the relationship. And a lot
And
of
I
the
would
time,
even think that it's like almost like if someone died too, it's not that dissimilar, where you have to do some mourning of the
yeah, you
relationship.
definitely have to, because in my case, it was easier for me because I have to question my marriage from day one of my marriage for 4 years. Every day questioning,
Uh,
every day looking at myself, every day fighting with my ex-husband, who I thought was comparable, was lie. I'm not
yeah.
blaming, but I'm saying I have to face myself that I decided to walk on the aisle, and then it is the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to be in that marriage because I was scared of what my family gonna react. And I was very Catholic at that time, and then church stuff too. So I had to face that every single day, and I had to question that every single day. And it's just, once you do that, and then once I decided to make a decision to talk to my ex-husband, this is not working, and then we should get divorced, then you still have to go through the grieving, but I was grieving from day one, actually. So it
Got
was
ya.
easier transition for me. But I know when people are going through their regular marriage, and then suddenly, like, they feel like they are no longer in sync with anymore, and they tried really, really hard, to be comparable. But how much can you be comparable if you are totally out of sync with each other? But
Yeah,
like
the
you
energy is just not meshing. Yeah.
that too, and then one person is sacrificing in order for two to work on, which is not healthy relationship.
Yeah, and if
And
they're sacrificing for the children, guess what? Those kids feel that.
yeah,
So
they do.
you're not fooling anybody. You can put out a pretty picture for the kids if that's the excuse. Oh, I'm staying for the kids. I don't want to hurt them. Guess what? Those kids feel every bit of that. So just wanted to tack that onto what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you're having amazing marriage, like second marriage, and your first kids from your first husband is having great dad who is not the biological dad, right?
He is, yes, and that's the thing. When I decided that I would be open to another relationship, there had to be the self love for me that said, I will not accept anyone into my life that will not accept my child
Mm-hmm.
as his own. Because honestly, I don't think and you and I talked about this a couple of sessions ago,
Mm-hmm.
there isn't true love if you're basing uh, somebody's children on whether they're your blood children or not. That's not what love is. You could be a parent to any child, if you're willing to and you want to. And so that was my boundary. That was my requirement, was that it would,
Yeah,
if there was an individual that said, oh, I want you but not your son, that was a no-go 100%. And that was how I
that's
loved
true.
myself.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you put that energy out into the universe, that's what the universe is then saying, okay, this is what she wants. You have to be very clear about what you want in life. I'm going to say that,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're putting energy out, all this uncertainty, well, I want security, but I don't want to stay with this guy who I'm no longer vibing with. And you're afraid to let go of the security because you're not believing in yourself that you can provide your own security. Well, you're sending out really confusing messages to the universe, and the universe is not gonna, it's just gonna keep sending you stuff. Okay, today you say you want this, so we're gonna send you that. Well, tomorrow I say I want this, so I'm gonna send you that. Do you see what I'm saying? This you start kitchen sinking the universal energy, and then you sit there and wonder why am I getting all these different options available to me and none of them is really congruent with what I want? Well, you haven't been clear about what you want. So I think maybe some of the individuals that you're working with, they have to get really clear. What is it that I want? Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
yeah, they do. But in order for them to understand that, you have to go through a lot of work, inner work and the healing, and then helpful to see the soul contract. They have to go through whole into other. You can just do mindset and meditate and try to get the clarity. When we are talking about deep level of clarity, why you're doing what, why you're choosing this and that, like moving one life to another isn't always easy, and especially when you have a kids, it's not easy. But when you have a clarity of, clarity means from soul level, not your mind level. But when you have a clarity of that, you can, and also self-love, then you can have a strength and a courage to follow your path, your soul path. Of course, we always have a free will. So if one decided to not follow their path, that is their choice too.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. But that doesn't mean you have to walk with them.
Yeah, we don't
And
have to work with them. That's why a lot of in twin flame relationship, when divine masculine is going through their destructive cycle or their karmic cycle, a lot of people, including myself, tell them to focusing on their own life and don't walk the path with him, because you're not his savior, you're not his Jesus. He's mind up to
absolutely.
take care of himself, even though
And,
he might not be awakened,
right.
you know.
And that's where the boundaries come in.
Yeah.
And, I think one of the things people, we were just talking about this, both of us, felt sort of pressured to stay. I was pressured to go into a marriage I didn't want to be in, and you were pressured to stay in one because of the religion. And so we're not just going to poop on religion. We're going to talk about like all kinds of expectations. But
Yeah.
doing something out of anybody else's expectation is just never
Ah,
going to come up with the result that you
I
want.
know.
That's my opinion, and I stick to it.
But
So
to get to,
anytime your excuse is it's for this other person, that's when we have to go, okay, how is that serving me?
yeah, to
And
get
if
to
it's
that level,
codependency,
there have to be certain awakening level.
exactly.
A lot of the
And
times people not gonna even realize they are operating due to, okay, I have to meet my family's expectation or religion expectation or society's expectation or your social standing expectation or whatever. A lot of
right, you got to
people.
start somewhere though, and I'll tell you, all that social conditioning is what you're talking about. It's social conditioning, what we've learned ever since we were children. That can all be erased too, not erased, but reprogrammed into now what's the more healthier way of thinking. And they call that cognitive behavioral therapy. They call it so many different things. But the bottom line is you got to start somewhere. And the average child learning something has to hear something, at least 100 times before they fully understand what it is they're hearing and what is expected of them. So, you start at square one and start in imagining what those things are that the person believes that they are um, having to do for someone else for an expectation, right? So we start floating the idea of, is it possible that you're doing this for somebody else? Just generally speaking.
Yeah, make them
Um,
happy, right? So you
yeah,
feel
what do
happy.
you think your motivation is for this XYZ behavior? And when you start planting the seed of questioning that, and then just keep watering it, keep asking the question, and maybe reframe the question, do it in other ways, but you're still getting to the question is, what
Mm-hmm.
is your answer? What is your answer? What is your motivation? And if it is somebody else's expectation, then that's not really your motivation. That's just you falling in line with what someone wants you to do. Right. But, I understand you're saying that's more for people that are awakened, but that's how we can also help people wake up, is by having them decide what their own answer is. A lot of people are detached from what even drives them.
Yeah, and
And
plus, in order for person to have that kind of strength as a self, it's important to have start cultivating self-love. Like, people, I do help single people to cultivate their self-love, because to me, unless you love yourself, how can you have a healthy relationship with someone?
right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's very important. But like, unless you have self-love, how do you put boundaries, or how can you stand up for yourself when the other person is expecting something totally different from what you want to do?
Yeah,
You
well, and I
know?
think that is you just do it. And okay, so I won't mention any names, but I had somebody in my life that if you wanted to get clinical, you could say probably had borderline personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't like to put people in boxes. But you kind of understanding what I'm saying is, people with BPD, they tend to be very extremely narcissistic. Well. Um, this individual I didn't want to take out of my life. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to have her with me.
Yeah.
However, I wanted my suffering to stop, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted the energetic vampirism to stop
Yeah.
because I was just drained every single time that I was in her presence. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just started putting boundaries out there.
Yeah.
And the minute I did that, there was blowback. I mean, of course, this I'm doing something completely out of character for myself, and I'm
And
doing
something
something
out
that
of
is
what
foreign
this
to
person
her.
used to, right? You didn't put the boundaries
Exactly.
before.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's totally out of character for me. It's totally not something this individual was used to. And the initial reactions were quite intense and kind of a FU sort of thing. And okay, that's fine. You know, we're starting something new and I'm setting a boundary in place. I can't control how she's going to react to it, but I can stay steadfast in my boundary. And eventually, I'll tell you this, and this is just anecdotal information. This is not like a longitudinal study or anything in research, but from my own personal account, she got used to it. And why? And she was respecting the boundaries. Why? Because she loved me too. See,
Yeah.
if
So it's
there's
very
love
important.
there and there's a willingness for someone to do the work, then things can happen and can change. But if you put those boundaries up and that person says F you and never has another conversation again, I don't hold out a lot of hope that
Yeah, yeah. If that happens, that's it. Plus, um, that's where self-love comes, because if you cultivating self-love, even that happens, you can accept that, because standing up for yourself and standing up what honoring yourself is more important, right? That's where we all have a courage to walk out of a relationship or marriage which is no longer serving us.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And I think that that's the only true way to find happiness in life. It's, we've seen so many examples of relationships. I mean, my parents, one of them, staying together for the sake of the children. And I felt every bit of that. I knew, I heard the arguments, I felt the pain, I felt the stress in the house, and it wasn't helping me. And also, here's another fact, it wasn't teaching me how to have a good relationship either. So there's something to chew on. If there are children involved, you want to be mindful of the example that you're showing them. And I'm not talking about guilt. I'm talking about being mindful and aware that if you show them your own strength and ability to go after what makes you happy, that's a beautiful gift you give your child
Yeah, that's
or
a
children,
priceless gift,
is showing
because
them how to follow their own strength. So we could
uh-huh.
actually help all the generations. Yeah, all the generations that come after us, we're helping them by being true to ourselves.
Oh, definitely, because that's something, the gift we cannot buy, right? And then
Absolutely.
kids or people around us can only learn by looking at the parents, or someone parental figure.
Yeah,
And
that's how we learn about relationships, is right in our own homes.
so that's not like so a lot of people feel guilty or might feel guilty about divorcing, or your first marriage didn't work, but it's not always that way. you know some marriage are not meant to stay together forever, like for lifetime, because
Mm-hmm.
it's nature of the contract. It depends on what kind of a contract you're having with a person. you know you can't just judge marriage or relationship in one big rule.
Well, this is a lot of why we do the hypnosis with our
Hmm.
clients, and we work on, because you can get a lot of answers pretty quickly in one
Yeah.
session about these questions.
Hmm.
And, what could take years of therapy to get to, because, of all the things you stated earlier, all the reasons why individuals aren't willing to look at the things we've talked about and be honest with themselves. I mean, we get them to their subconscious level
Yeah,
and able to then they can ask their higher self, they can ask themselves, what
definitely.
is this about, and why isn't this working, or what can I do to improve this and that sort of thing. And then those answers come to them.
So have more clarity, and that's
So much
also
more.
the choice for one
Yeah.
individual to make, and it has to do with free will as well. So
Yeah.
today we just wanted to share with you guys about, you know, this kind of topic, and next time we're gonna have a totally different topic. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's topic, and then I see you guys next Friday.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Erica. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.